Is this thing on? Testing, testing. Is that microphone working? Microphone check, microphone check, I could never do rhyme. I wish I could do. Microphone check, microphone checker. Hey, welcome to another episode of The Disruptive Marketer. I'm your host, Geoffrey Cologne. It's been a while since I've been in front of the camera. I've been busy doing other things. Working at Microsoft, writing, podcasting, you name it. Anyhow, we got a great episode for you this week. James Whittaker, lead technical evangelist at Microsoft, got to sit down with him. Maybe I should actually rewind a little bit.
Anyhow, we got a great episode for you this week. James Whittaker, lead technical evangelist at Microsoft, got to sit down with him.
Not only did I get to sit down with him, I got to have a beer with him, folks. If you don't know who James is, make sure you look at his speaking schedule, look his name up on Amazon as soon as possible. Order his book. I think he's got a new book coming too. Great creative storyteller, really fun person to talk to, looks at the world in a very different way from a lot of people in the tech world in general, and specifically at Microsoft. So I got to sit down with him and got a little bit of him on camera, did a little bit of a Q&A. So watch it and enjoy in our latest episode. And I didn't get the full interview, so if you want to hear the entire audio, make sure you check out episode 66 of Disruptive FM. That's my podcast with Cheryl Metzger. Hey, Cheryl. Anyhow, enjoy this latest episode. Hope to be back a little bit more on camera shortly. It's Friday. It's another episode of Disruptive FM, the marketing podcast for eccentric minds. I'm your host, Jeff Cologne, and Cheryl Metzger is on assignment this week. But I figured instead of not doing an episode, it would be fun to bring in one of the greatest minds who
happens to be drinking a beer
and works at Microsoft with me. And that's James Whittaker, distinguished fellow. What is your title?
My official title is Distinguished Engineer. Some people call me a technical evangelist. I drink and I know things.
You drink and you know things, which is what
Hats
I love.
off to Tyrion Lannister on that one.
So let's, talk a little bit about fun things that, Tyrion Lannister is involved in terms of Games of Thrones, and that's a subject you love, which is storytelling.
Storytelling. And what a good story that is. If George R.R. Martin, if you're listening, write some shit, dude. We need you to write. Stop talking. Stop going out in public. Write some stuff. Yeah, storytelling is kind of my thing. In fact, I taught a class this morning, and I like to mess with people a little bit in my storytelling. People are concerned with success. People are concerned with their careers. People are concerned with promotion, and people think, I'm just going to work harder and get this next promotion. I'm going to do something that will impress my boss. And no one ever thinks about how other people perceive them.
No.
Inside their own head, they're like this superhero. Inside their own head, all their work matters. Inside their own head, they are like the crucial person on the team. And so in my storytelling class, I try to get people out of their own head, because it doesn't matter what you think about yourself. It doesn't matter how impressed you are with your product and your contribution to your product. Storytelling is about what other people think, and storytelling is about changing other people's minds. I don't really care how good your idea is. If you can't convince someone else it's good, your idea dies on the vine. And so for me, storytelling is a very personal thing. It's your ability to represent your own personal brand.
Yeah. And that's a good question. Personal brand. I mean, how important is it now in the 21st century? Because we rarely ever talked about these things even like 5-6 years ago, James.
Yeah, personal brand is kind of a new term, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's really important, right? Because we didn't talk about it before social networking, because there was really no such thing. I mean, you are the combination of the person I know, the Jeff I know in person,
Yep.
The Jeff I know on social media.
Yep.
The Jeff I know by reputation. The Jeff I know based on your past work, which are all online now. It's very difficult to contain that.
Yeah.
And so you've got to manage it. You've got to manage the projection of you into the actual world. And that's called personal brand.
And do you think we are really moving into this world because of everyone's personal brand, where we almost become free agents in some respect?
You know,
What do you think?
we're moving into this world because we don't have any choice. The world is crowded now. I mean, you know, you think about in the 70s, you know, before, you know, technology kind of took over the world, and if you had a band and you could play decent music, you were probably going to get famous. You were probably going to get a record contract because there were so few people who could do that. And now, great bands are a dime a dozen, man. You can walk around Seattle, you can walk and go into any random music venue and rock your ass off. You know, they're great. Talent is everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, when everybody's talented, when the world is packed full of talent, how do you get your particular talent noticed? And that's about your brand, and that's about your projection of your brand to potential customers.
Well, so tell our listeners a little bit about your brand. I mean, you have a fascinating background. I love when I've seen you speak, and I hope everybody gets the opportunity to do so, because I was like thinking for days on end after I've seen you speak, and I've seen you speak I think 2, maybe 3 times. I mean,
All right, a return customer.
Exactly.
Have I sold you a shirt and a book yet?
But yeah, I guess that's the next step, right? No, but tell me a little bit, or tell the listeners a little bit more about your personal brand and why you sort of, I guess, why you've decided to choose the path that you have. I mean, I find you to be very different from most people.
Yeah, different is definitely a word used to describe me. I'm not your typical, corporate denizen, and I don't represent myself on stage in a very typical manner.
Mm-hmm.
And it's purposeful. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make a difference. Anybody can stand up and give a talk on any subject and basically bore their audience to tears, right? You see this all the time. I mean, how many times have you gone to a talk, you sit through the whole thing,
yep,
you're bored to tears, you're looking at your phone, just trying to entertain yourself, trying to maintain some simulation of of interest, and then you walk away and it didn't make an impact on you. And so my idea is I want to make an impact on the people. If an audience is going to gather to listen to me, then they should walk away better for the experience, or maybe worse for the experience, but they should walk away thinking. They should walk away with their brain on fire, whether that's positive, which is most of my audience, or negative.
Yeah.
It's the people who walk away and not being effective. They personally piss me off. I love my 5-star reviews on Amazon. I love my 1-star reviews on Amazon. It's the 3s that piss me off.
That's right.
I'm like, take a side, man. Get off the fence.
That's right.
Oh.
Yes, it's like, like you said, 1-star reviews actually are good because you're like, all right, this person doesn't agree with me, but they're strongly opinionated, maybe with not
And
agreeing
you
with me.
invoked that opinion. That's what's
That's
so cool
right.
about the 1-star reviews.
That's right.
I got into you. I got into your head. I got under your skin, and I affected you so much. You had to take time out of your day to talk about how much you hate me or hate my message. To
That's
me,
right.
that's success.
That's total success.
Total success.
But that leads me to a question. A lot of people, that's success, I think, now, but a lot of people still are stuck in this world where it's like, hey, 1-star, that's a failure.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I mean,
no, you can't please everybody. And if you try to please everybody, you're going to end up pleasing nobody. You're going to be just another vanilla-flavored old white dude that somehow manages to succeed just because you never pissed anybody off. Who wants to be that guy? Who wants to be that person that just did what they were told, followed all the rules, kissed the right ass, manage to politic your way into the right project. Dude, when I get, 70 or whenever I give this up, 80, 90, I don't know. I'm hoping for modern medicine to keep my ass alive. I don't want to look back and know that I succeeded because I did what other people expected.
Yeah.
I want to know that I succeeded because I made a difference in other people's lives. And one of the reasons I take the stage so often, and I probably shouldn't, right? I've been, the complaints about my language, the complaints about my subject matter, the complaints about my, non-political correctness are frequent enough that I know I'm doing something and getting inside people's head. But I think the younger generation needs to hear it. I think more people my age, late 40s, early 50s, that kind of era, we're still young enough to relate to the younger generation, and they need us. They need people who are experienced, who have been through it, to mentor them through it. And so I'm laying it on the line, and I'm doing it for the next generation, because this age of the old white guy circling the wagons, trying to maintain relevance for one more decade, it's coming to an end.
Yeah.
And the millennials, they're diverse. The millennials embrace gender identities of whatever form. They embrace people of different opinions and different color, because diversity is not just about the color of your skin and the hardware you got between your legs. Diversity is about how you think, all the experiences you've had in life up to now that make you who you are. And everybody's got a unique perspective, and everybody needs to understand that perspective is valuable.
So, looking at the diversity of sort of the experience you have, what are some things that you look back on that you're like, maybe at the time you were like, wow, this is terrible, but looking back on it, you're like, I'm really glad I went through that, because that was a good learning lesson.
Oh, the FBI, man. I was the first computer science graduate hired by the FBI. My job was to automate caseloads. Whoa. And that job blew chunks, man. I mean, on paper, it looked so good. I had a badge, I had a blue light in my car, I had, oh my gosh, you talk about a job that's braggable. And I nearly got sucked into it. When you have a cool job, right?
That's
like
right.
The people who worked for Microsoft in the 90s, Google in the 2000s, Apple in the 2010s were like, oh, look at me, man.
That's
I work
right.
for the cool company. I could have ridden that. I could have milked it. And I didn't. And I'm so proud of myself for saying, you know what? This job doesn't matter. There's 100,000 people who can do this job just as good as me. I can lie to myself and say, this shit matters, man. We do that. We do that.
Yeah.
We lie to ourselves about how great our job is. It might actually be an evolutionary thing that we do it because we know we need to make a living. We know this is good for, us, our family, our kids. And so we have to lie to ourselves to keep ourselves doing what we're doing just to make a paycheck.
Yep.
But I learned that very young. Don't lie to yourself about whether you love your job or not. Actually go out and seek a job that is worth loving.
Check out the full interview with James Whittaker on episode 66 of Disruptive FM, the marketing podcast for eccentric minds, hosted by Geoffrey Cologne and Cheryl Metzger.